Thank you everyone for joining us for today's meeting. We're going to give folks a few more minutes before beginning. Buenas tardes a todos. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Esta noche comenzaremos nuestra junta en un momento. We'll give folks a minute to connect. Le vamos a dar a todos un momento para que se puedan conectar. So I think we're going to get going. So welcome everyone. I first want to take a moment to share the Zoom interpretation instructions. Gracias a todos por estar aquí. Vamos a comenzar con las instrucciones para interpretación. Antes, voy a hacer esto primero en español y luego en inglés. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to share the interpretation instructions, first in Spanish, then in English. Para todas las personas que nos acompañan hoy a través de su tableta o iPad o de su teléfono inteligente o smartphone, a favor de localizar el menú en forma de 3 puntos en la parte inferior de su pantalla. De ahí pueden seleccionar Language Interpretation o interpretación del lenguaje. Y enseguida pueden seleccionar su idioma, en este caso el español o Spanish. Para todas las personas que nos acompañan a través de su computadora, pueden localizar el símbolo de interpretación en forma de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Hagan clic ahí y después elijan su lenguaje en español o Spanish. Ahora voy a dar las instrucciones en inglés. Here are the instructions in English. For all those joining us tonight through their tablets or iPads or through their smartphones, please locate the menu in the form of 3 dots on your screen. You can click there, then select Language Interpretation, then select the language of your choice. In this case, it would be English. If you're joining us through your computer, you can locate the icon in the form of globe for interpretation at the bottom of your screen. You can click there and then there select English as your language of choice. Jazz will now launch interpretation for us. And we'll give folks a moment to connect. So we want to start off the meeting by reviewing our meeting agreements. We always going to take a moment at the beginning of every meeting just to review these. And just, if we ever come to a moment where we need to revise these or go back to them, we can always go back. So the first one, just create space for everybody to contribute. Step up, step back. Only one person speaks at a time, so please use your raised hands as we're in a virtual space. Listen to each other, respect each other, opinions, knowledge, and perspective. Be conscious of time, especially today. We do have a packed agenda. And then please speak slowly and clearly for the interpreter. So always be mindful of other folks and language needs. So I'm going to pass it over to Brisa, who's going to lead us through roll call for today.
Thanks, Christian. All right, so I'm going to go through the list. If you are here, please say present. Starting with Alicia Sanchez. Andrew Aguilar. Ashley Valentin Gonzalez.
Present.
Brent Burge.
Present.
David
Perdón,
Ramos.
Mi computadora está lenta. Ya dije presente, no sé si me escucharon.
¿Quién está hablando? Perdón. Alicia, ok.
Alicia Sánchez.
Well, is present.
Gracias.
Thank you.
David Ramos.
Here.
David Welch. Okay. Jack Monger,
Good evening, I'm here.
Jackie Reynoso Marquez, Janice Luna Reynoso, Jonathan Torres,
I'm here and my alternate Anna Rios is not.
okay, thank you. Jose Marquez Chavez, Josephine Talamantes, Keith Corey,
Present, and my alternate Shelby Busso is not.
thank you. Carrie Robinson, Leslie Nishihira, Brian Vernetti, oops, sorry. Margarita Moreno,
Presente.
Mariela Rodríguez, Maritza Garcia,
Present.
Martin Reeder, Macy Hatch,
Yep, I'm here. Good evening.
good evening. Montserrat Hernandez,
Presente.
Nick Critty,
I'm here.
Nick Powell,
Present.
Philip Gibbons,
Phil will be arriving later. This is Michelle from the port, just letting you know.
thanks, Michelle. Roman Partida Lopez, Safia Haidari, Salvador Razo Abrica, Sergio Hernández, Silvia Calzada. I think I just saw them come in the waiting room. Silvia Calzada,
Present.
sorry. Stephanie Yoon, and Vanessa Contreras.
Hello. Hi, this is Sylvia Calzada.
Ah.
Sorry about that.
Thank
That's
you.
just logged in.
All right, we have 15 present and 18 absent, and we meet quorum. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brisa. So I'm going to pull up our screen. Do want to share the agenda for today. So as we noted at the beginning, onset of the meeting itself, we do have a pretty packed agenda. There's some pretty good presentations that are going to be provided today. So we do have a full docket. So we do want to share that the incentive funding update presentation is going to be moved to next month, just to give a little bit more breathing room and then just provide a little bit more opportunity for folks to provide feedback and comments for the other presentations. So we're going to have an update from Office of Environmental Justice with Lauren, also the also floating dry dock draft environmental impact report. So some information on that. And then presentation as well from the Port of San Diego and the MOU process itself. At this time, I would like to open the floor to see if anyone would like to make a motion to approve the minutes and agenda. And I'm going to pull up the meeting notes from last meeting on screen. Folks should be able to see that on screen now. And then I did want to scroll to the end of the notes, just to note that I believe Jack had made a comment about adding the attendance list as well. So that's noted at the very end of those notes.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to go over back to the presentation, but I do want to ask if someone would like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes and then agenda.
So moved.
And Jack, did I hear it first?
Yeah, Jack. Motion to approve.
This is Maritza, I second.
Marisa seconds. Now, is there any discussion before we move to a vote? Don't see any. So we'll now move on to a vote. So all those in favor say aye.
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 I,
All those in opposed say nay. The ayes have it. So the meeting notes and today's agenda are approved. So we'll move through the next section of our meeting. So some general updates. So I believe someone from the port was going to give an update on the CERP project. So we heard about this project maybe 2 meetings ago. Is this someone from the port here? I know Phil is going to give an update, but I did hear that Michelle, I think you're here. So Michelle, I don't know if you can give an update on that CERP project.
No, sorry, I don't have an update on it. I do have an update or just an update about an event at Cesar Chavez Park this week, but that's it.
And Michelle, feel free to give that update. And if you do have more information, also like you can share it within the chat. But we could also send it via that weekly digest as well.
Sure. I just put some links in the chat. This Saturday, there will be a day at the park at Cesar Chavez Park. It's a celebration that will feature entertainment, performances, and activities for the whole family. And there will also be a pop-up event at the a day at the park, and this will be regarding park improvements. It's the second event where we will reach out to the community and ask for ideas on what you'd like to see at the park in the future.
Thank you, Michelle. And then, yeah, we'll come back to that CERP update later in the meeting. I do want to give space for other folks if they want to provide any other updates on other things that are happening around the community or things that folks should know about. Feel free to either raise your hand, come off mute, or drop any update on the chat as well. So I'm going to keep moving. So our first section for today is just a quick update from Lauren Perez at SDAPCD with Office of Environmental Justice and some of the community outreach updates. So Lauren, I'm going to hand it off to you to give us some updates. And Lauren, you're on mute. We can't hear you, but we can. No, we still can't hear you. No. No. Okay, Lauren, we'll come back to you. So we're just going to move ahead with our presentation. So we do have Mike Watt, who's going to be giving us a presentation on the Austal Floating Dry Dock Draft Environmental Impact Report. Mike, I see you on screen, so we're going to hand it off to you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly.
All right, great.
Awesome.
So we're heading in the right direction. So thanks everybody. I appreciate the time tonight. My name is Mike Watt. I am one of the deputy directors here at San Diego APCD, and we're here tonight to give you an update on the Austal floating dry dock project. You may recall we came to the group this fall when we were doing scoping as part of the CEQA analysis for this project, and provided some, upfront information about the project and the scoping process, and solicited feedback at that time. Since then, we've worked with Jacobs, who's our environmental contractor, as well as the project applicant Austal, to go through that environmental analysis, and we released a draft environmental impact report a few weeks ago. And so we're back here tonight to go over, kind of the high level of the CEQA process, talk about that draft environmental impact report, and then talk about how this group or anyone can provide comments or feedback that they might have on the draft environmental impact report. So tonight, I've got my colleagues, Eric Luther and Stephen Amberg, with me, who are going to walk us through the presentation. With that, I will turn it over to Eric, who I think is going to kick things off for us.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Luther. I'm a supervising air resources specialist at the Air District. And then Stephen Amberg, who's a program coordinator in our engineering division, will also be giving some of the presentation. Can we go next slide, please? Okay, one more. Okay, great. So for tonight's agenda, we're going to discuss the Portside CERP connections and environmental justice considerations for the draft environmental impact report for the Austal project. We'll discuss the CEQA process. Then we'll describe the project and environmental review outcome of evaluating the project. And lastly, we'll discuss next steps. Next slide, please. So because the project is located in the Portside community, we look at the following plans as part of the evaluation: the Portside Community Emission Reductions Plan, or CERP, the Maritime Clean Air Strategy, or MCAS, and the Regional Air Quality Strategy, or RAQS. Chapter 3 of the Draft Environmental Impact Report includes review of the proposed project for these air quality plans. The Draft Environmental Impact Report identifies that this project will have no significant effects on the environment and would not conflict with or obstruct implementation of applicable air quality plans. The Draft Environmental Impact Report also outlines control measures and best management practices proposed to reduce emissions from ship repair activities consistent with Portside CERP Action G5. Next slide, please. So the San Diego Air Pollution Control District recently adopted CEQA guidelines that describe how we incorporate environmental justice into our review of projects subject to CEQA, including meaningful public engagement, emission reduction requirements, and CEQA addresses impacts from physical changes to the environment. It's important to note that purely economic or social impacts do not constitute significant effects under CEQA. However, economic or social effects of a project that would lead to a physical change in the environment may result in significant impacts under CEQA. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so let's start with some background about the CEQA process and what we're trying to accomplish. The California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, mandates that public agencies evaluate the potential environmental effects of proposed projects before making decisions. The CEQA process helps inform decision makers and the public about potential environmental impacts and identify ways to prevent significant impacts where possible. As the local agency responsible for enforcing air pollution control laws, generally the San Diego APCD prepares and reviews CEQA documents for projects that may have potential impacts on air quality. For this project, San Diego Air Pollution Control District is the lead agency, as it has the principal responsibility for ensuring compliance with CEQA requirements. This project requires San Diego Air Pollution Control District permits, and the San Diego APCD has greater authority approval authority over the proposed project compared to other public agencies. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what are the goals and benefits of the CEQA process? CEQA offers opportunities to enhance transparency and public engagement, and it requires public meetings and notices to disclose potential environmental effects. If needed, mitigation measures may be implemented to minimize potentially significant impacts to the environment. CEQA also promotes interagency collaboration, which is very critical to effectively serve our communities. Okay, next slide, please. So as previously discussed, CEQA mandates that public agencies evaluate the potential environmental effects of proposed projects before making decisions. Environmental effects go well beyond air quality. There are 18 environmental impact categories that must be fully evaluated. The draft environmental impact report that has been posted fully discusses each category and found that project impacts will be less than significant. Because the initial study identified air quality as being potentially impacted by this project, we will be focusing our discussion on the air quality evaluation included in the draft environmental impact report. I will now turn it over to my colleague, Stephen Amberg, who will discuss the project description and environmental review outcome.
You're muted.
Thank you. The proposed project entails installing and operating a floating dry dock at the Austal, USA facility located on San Diego Bay in National City. The floating dry dock will be used for ship repairs and maintenance only, not for building new ships, with service up to 4 vessels per year. The Austal facility consists of areas leased from the US Navy and the Port of San Diego, and is located adjacent to areas that are owned and controlled by Naval Base San Diego and the port. The floating dry dock would be placed within the Navy lease area located in San Diego Bay, adjacent to the Austal, USA facility. The proposed project would support governmental and commercial vessels in the San Diego Bay by providing full docking availabilities for vessels up to 500 feet long. Austal is already operating a facility at this location where small vessels are maintained. The existing facility is shown in the slide with the yellow lines. The proposal is to expand the facility by installing a floating dry dock in the area shown in the red line. Next slide, please. A floating dry dock is like a large hollow platform that floats on water and can sink or rise to allow ships to enter and lift ships out of the water for repairs or maintenance. Floating dry docks are often used in shipyards when building, repairing, or cleaning large vessels. Seen on this slide is a rendering of the proposed dry dock at the Austal, USA facility in the red box adjacent to the naval base. Next slide, please. SDAPCD evaluated emissions from the construction and installation phase to the full operation of the project. Emissions include those from marine coatings, welding, abrasive blasting, emergency engines, as well as the vehicular traffic to and from the site, including truck trips. Emissions will mainly occur on the ships being worked on in the dry dock and at the existing piers, but work will also take place in the operations building. The emergency engines are on site to meet fire safety requirements of the Navy and have limited operations only for testing and maintenance and during an emergency. The images on this slide are intended to show the types of operations, but as the next slide will show, operations may look different due to emissions capture and control requirements. Next slide, please. As part of the evaluation, it was required that Austal USA implement BACT and TBACT, which are short for Best Available Control Technology, and Toxics Best Available Control Technology. BACT is defined in SDAPCD Rule 20.1 and requires that operators install the most effective emissions control device or control technique available, which is cost-effective for that class or category of emission unit and is shown to be technologically feasible. To limit emissions, TBACT requires the most effective emission limitation or emissions control device or control technique which has been achieved in practice or found to be technologically feasible for a specific source. Austal will be using shrouding around ships to capture emissions and control emissions through filters before being emitted. The picture on the left shows an example of a ship in a dry dock with shrouding encasing the ship. Shown on the right is a welding station in the operations building at the Austal facility, in which fumes from welding are captured and routed to filters. These are some examples of the control techniques that Austal will be using as part of this project. Next slide, please. As discussed in the previous slides, all sources of air emissions were evaluated and operations were equipped with best available control technology. Criteria emissions were below CEQA significance thresholds, and a health risk assessment was conducted and showed that health risks from the project were also below CEQA significance thresholds. No significant impacts were identified, so there are no mitigation measures included in the draft EIR. However, SDAPCD permit conditions will require Austal to operate at or under the evaluated conditions, ensuring ongoing compliance with CEQA and all air quality requirements. The draft EIR identifies that this project will have no significant effects on the environment and would not conflict with or obstruct implementation of applicable air quality plans. Now my colleague Eric will cover the next steps.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. The draft environmental impact report for this project is available for review on the San Diego Air Pollution Control District website. A Spanish version of the executive summary is also posted. The comment period for these documents runs through June 12th, 2025. All comments received by June 12th, along with the San Diego Air Pollution Control District responses to them, will be incorporated into the final environmental impact report. Comments on this draft environmental impact report can be submitted by email to myself, and my email is Eric, E-R-I-C, .Luther, L-U-T-H-E-R, at SDAPCD.org. And we can also put that in the chat. Once all comments have been reviewed and responded to, San Diego Air Pollution Control District will take final action on the environmental impact report and associated project permits. The final environmental documents will be posted on our CEQA website, which is accessible by scanning the QR code shown on the slide. Okay, next slide, please. To ensure the draft environmental impact report is as informative as possible, the San Diego Air Pollution Control District welcomes comments that pertain to this specific project, address the adequacy or thoroughness of the analysis, and identify any clarifications that may be needed. Okay, and next slide. Okay, so at this time, we're happy to take any questions or comments, feedback, as we said about the project description, the environmental review results, or possibly even how to submit any comments.
And we'll look at folks, let's see if folks have any follow-up on this. And if folks do want to raise their hands or submit anything in the chat, Montserrat.
¿En el chat solamente?
En el chat o pueden levantar la mano y pueden dar su comentario también.
Ok, sí me gustaría comentar algo. ¿Listo? ¿Lo puedo hacer?
Sí.
Ah, ok.
Yeah.
Ok,
Esperando.
bueno, mi nombre es Montserrat Hernández. soy representante de la comunidad y también trabajo para la EHC, Environmental Health Coalition. Y pues sé que no es la primera vez que esta compañía está tratando de venir aquí a la comunidad. Entonces, mi comentario es que nos gustaría que dieran prioridad para este negocio, para que pudieran utilizar troques cero emisión, ya que es muy importante para nosotros los camiones a base de diésel es una fuente muy grande de contaminación para la comunidad. Así que queremos que prioricen en su proyecto el usar este tipo de camiones. Gracias.
Gracias, Montserrat. And then Nicholas.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. Thank you, Eric, for the presentation. I have two comments, kind of building off of Monse's comment. I think one of the areas of concern that I noticed is on the report, there's discussion about some non-permitted emission sources and some commitments that Austal will be making to try to encourage carpooling, for example, or encouraging trucks to use the latest emission control technology for their haul truck trips. I guess we're a little concerned about the verbiage used. You know, it says that Austal will commit to encouraging these things. I guess we're a little it'd be difficult to enforce that in their permit. And so I was wondering if you can talk to how the Air District plans on enforcing that.
Thanks, Nick. I can take a first shot at that, and then Stephen or someone else can sort of step in. But I think it's important to note that those particular items are included as best practices, if you will, and were not factored into the evaluation associated with the project, right? So when we talk about the project emission thresholds or project emissions being below the thresholds of significance, it doesn't take into account any of those types of best practices that are encouraged as part of this project, because you're exactly right. There's no way for us to enforce those types of things included as part of a permit. So anything associated with, you know, the use of carpools or providing electric vehicle infrastructure would be kind of above and beyond what's been evaluated in terms of project emissions and what can be included in the you know, requirements, enforceable requirements in our permit conditions. Stephen, I don't know if I've stated that exactly right, if there's anything you need to add there, but I want to make sure that we clarify the difference there.
You summed it up correct. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. That's helpful. So it's not, that would be above and beyond the I guess the requirements for CEQA.
Correct.
Am I
Yes.
correct?
There wasn't any emissions reductions associated with those types of actions in that section there.
Got it. And then I also had a question, maybe not so much for this, but in the future, we did pass a community expectations document. And on there and in conversation with community members, one of the concerns that folks have been elevating to me is the local hire requirements for, I think you mentioned like 130 jobs. It would be great for Austal to present in a future CSC about their commitments to the community expectations. And so I think that would be a great first test of our community expectations document, if there's an ability to get Austal to present in the future.
Nicholas, I think that's a good point. I think we can then table that as a possible presentation, I think. and then I think connecting with Mike and other folks and see if that's something we can have. I think the question would be whether that can happen before the June 12th deadline for this, because I think that's something that is timely as well in terms of whether, Nicholas, I think you would want that included as part of the comment period or not. And Mike, jump in.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's maybe a little bit outside the scope of the EIR process, but I do know that we have some representatives from Austal on the call today. I didn't know if Hugo or Angel had any initial thoughts on that and maybe potential ideas for follow-up with this group.
Yeah, this is Hugo with Austal USA. Yeah, we heard the comment, and I think that's something that's appropriate for us to talk about. We can probably arrange for maybe for a different meeting, and we can speak to how Austal is contributing to course the community and job creation as well.
Yeah, that's correct. This is Angel, director of Austal, and currently we are already engaged quite a bit with the community. Some of those are with the school district on it. We already have a couple programs going with them, so it will be good for us, a good venue that we can actually explain all the situation in all the areas we're helping them out right now.
Thank you, folks. I want to see whether other CC members have any other questions when it comes to Jack.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to clarify for the record, particularly for people who may not be regular attendees to this meeting. Montserrat mentioned that she was a representative of the community, and I hadn't heard that before. I wanted to understand if Montserrat are you an elected official, or are you part of the community planning group, or are you just kind of an unofficial representative of the community, or what?
Soy representante de la comunidad porque vivo en Logan Heights, pero a la vez trabajo como organizadora comunitaria en la Coalición de Salud Ambiental. Gracias.
And Jack, did you have a follow-up comment?
No, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
That answered my question.
No worries. And Mike, one question just for a clarification on folks submitting comments. When they're emailing comments into actually Eric's email, should they be including any subject line on that or any other guidance beyond what's already shared on screen?
Eric, any thoughts on that? I mean, I think if they could include, Austal somewhere in the header, just noting that it's related to the Austal project, I think that would help Eric as he's sorting through any comments that we do receive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just something, if it says Austal in the subject line, that'll get my attention.
And then Eric, I guess another clarification, will folks receive receipt of their submittal once they send in a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I could send that. I mean, the actual official receipt of submittal would be that the comment and then the response will be in the final environmental impact report. But if folks would like, I could reply that I've received the comment.
Thank you. I want to see if there's any other questions before we move on, but thank you so much for the presentation. And I think if folks do have any follow-up on this, Eric, can folks reach out to you if they have any other questions? I know that there's kind of different venues when it comes to both formally submitting a comment versus asking a clarification question. Can folks reach out to you and follow up with
yeah, for sure.
questions?
Yeah, I think that email is still probably the best and easiest way to do that, for sure.
Sounds good. So yeah, if folks have any questions or anything, clarifications on how to submit the comment, or just need a little bit more information, Eric's email, I think, will be included in the chat. And I see that Jazz has already added that. But yeah, thank you folks for the presentation. With that, we're going to move on to the next item. So for our next presentation, I believe we're going to have Nick and then Phil. I'm not sure if Viruda. I know we were waiting for Phil earlier in the meeting, but Phil, or Philip, I see you on now. So not sure who's going to be starting, but I see both of you on.
Sure, I can start, Christian. Actually add just a quick question, just in terms of logistics. I know Lauren. I don't know if Lauren was able to get her mic working. I didn't want to keep her waiting on the item that we kind of skipped over for her. I don't know if you wanted to go back to that or.
I think we can get going on this, and then we'll definitely loop in Lauren at the end. I think it's a nice wrap up as well.
Okay, just wanted to check.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Cormier. I'm the Rural Development Supervisor here at APCD. And again, just to sincerely appreciate being able to be here again tonight. Tonight, we're excited to present to you the proposed Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, between the Air Pollution Control District and the Port of San Diego. This is something that both agencies have been working hard on for the past 2 years, over 2 years really, and having incorporated the feedback from this steering committee, port tenants, and our respective boards, we're proud to bring this before you tonight. Presenting with me will be Phil Gibbons from the Port District, and he'll be covering a portion of the slides in the presentation today. And we also have a number of APCD and Port District staff on the line today who have all been working actively and participating with this to be a team effort from the start, and all of which are available for any questions that we may have. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. So before getting too far ahead, it's important to remind everyone just how this proposed MOU supports the Portside CERP, and in this particular case, also jointly supports the Port's Maritime Clean Air Strategy, or MCAS. As you'll hear more about today, the measures included within the MOU support multiple CERP actions, including support for incentive opportunities, reducing emissions from heavy-duty trucks and working waterfront activities, as well as advocacy measures. The MOU will also provide a meaningful push forward to help support the goals and objectives within the MCAS, including those for zero-emission cargo handling equipment, ZEV trucks, ocean-going vessels, as well as supporting community and health goals. This MOU will help provide the necessary bridge between these two documents. Next slide, please. To take a step back, AB 423 included a provision that APCD consider measures to reduce indirect source emissions from mobile sources, including warehouses, distribution centers, and ports. To do this, APCD and port staff started discussions in October 2022, and the following June, the APCD Governing Board directed staff to continue discussing a possible MOU with port staff. In October 2023, we presented to the Portside Steering Committee seeking feedback on possible draft MOU concepts. And then in December of that year, APCD and port staff presented the MOU concepts that were being discussed to the Port Board of Commissioners and the APCD Governing Board. In the fall of last year, we presented the framework of the MOU to this group, the Portside Steering Committee, as well as to APCD's Planning and Policy Committee, the Board of Port Commissioners, and Working Waterfront Representation. Since that time, APCD and port staff have continued to refine the framework and develop the proposed MOU language that was posted on our website just this last week. Next slide, please. And while the MOU is, if successful, will provide meaningful engagement and health benefits to the community, we should not lose sight of the investments that the Port of San Diego, APCD, and the tenants have already made in recent years to further encourage zero-emission transportation and more efficient operations. This includes approximately $227 million in total investments between the port, APCD, and the tenants and service providers, including the first zero-emission tugboat in North America, improvements to electric infrastructure at the marine terminals, and procuring zero-emission technology. There's clearly more work to do, but additional funding commitments are on the way from the port, its tenants, and APCD, some of which you'll hear about today in the MOU. Next slide, please. The main objectives of what both agencies are seeking as part of this MOU are found on this slide. Both agencies agree that a balanced MOU that improves public health, protects good paying jobs, and advances implementation of MCAS and SERP goals is a high priority. Both agencies also agree that an MOU could achieve these objectives, reduce emissions quickly, and strengthen APCD and the port's relationship with tenants, service providers, and community members if successful. It's an opportunity to advance zero-emission technology and the supporting infrastructure they will need. We also see this MOU as an opportunity to further inform and support the public with information about projects in progress and how they may stack up in relation to MCAS and SERP goals. The MOU will also ensure that there is no regulatory exemption provided for the port or its tenants, and included strong accountability provisions to ensure milestones or alternative equivalent options are achieved in relation to MCAS and SERP timelines. Next slide, please. So let's now dive into the components of the MOU. If you heard our presentation about the framework of the MOU last year, a lot of this information will sound and look a little similar. The measures that were included in the framework that we developed last year and the language that has since made it into the MOU are largely similar, with minor changes made as needed as the discussion with both agencies continued. I would encourage you to follow along with the MOU document itself, which is an attachment in the agenda today, so you can take notes about particular sections as you further review the MOU language. And so for this section, I'm going to turn it over to Phil Gibbons. Phil?
Sure. Thanks, Nick. Good evening, everyone. I'll just go over the main components of the MOU and then dive into the MOU schedules. So the MOU, as we're proposing it, is going to be good for a 6-year term. So that would start when it's adopted by both of our boards, hopefully this summer. So it would go theoretically from this year, 2025, through the end of 2031. The MOU would serve in place of an indirect source rule associated with ports. The MOU is a typical memorandum of understanding that the port or APCD or other government agencies will do. It establishes the terms and conditions and agreements between our two agencies and our collaborative responsibilities. The bulk of the initiatives that we intend to achieve through this MOU are found in the appendix of what we call a series of schedules, focusing on cargo handling equipment, medium and heavy duty trucks, commercial harbor craft and ocean-going vessels, public participation, infrastructure, and then off-tidelands projects in the Portside community. Next slide. Okay, so MOU schedule number 1, cargo handling equipment. And you'll notice actually the first 2 schedules involve funding for cargo handling equipment and then trucks. So the goal of this schedule is to transition diesel-powered cargo handling equipment to zero-emission cargo handling equipment. The commitment by APCD will be to prioritize $3 million of funding to the Port District, tenants, and our service providers to make the transition from diesel equipment to zero emissions. The port will provide education and technical assistance to our tenants to apply for that funding. And our goal in this is to encumber the $3 million within the first 3 years of this MOU term. And if we're successful, then we can come back to the Portside community and ask and request more money go to more pieces of equipment. Next slide. Schedule 2. The goal of Schedule 2 is to transition diesel-powered medium and heavy-duty trucks to zero-emission trucks. This is fairly similar to the schedule we just saw, but there are some enhancements to this one. In this MOU schedule, APCD would prioritize $4 million of funding to the Port District tenants and service providers to apply for funding and hopefully turn over diesel trucks to zero-emission trucks. The port's commitment are as follows. We are going to promote and reevaluate our zero-emission vehicle incentive program. This is what we call the ZEVI program. The ZEVI program at the port provides reduced fees when ships come to the port that use fleets that have zero-emission vehicles. So we'll continue that program and we'll evaluate its effectiveness during the course of this MOU. The port will also provide $1 million for zero-emission truck acquisitions, usage, and/or infrastructure to support the transition to zero-emission vehicles. and we're committed to publish reports on truck activity at our marine cargo terminals. Similar to the first schedule, the goal is to encumber this $4 million within the first 3 years of this MOU term. Next slide. Now, we have a structure for if the money is not encumbered in the first 3 years. Well, first of all, we hope that it is. And if it is successful, APCD and the port can seek feedback from the community to request more funding to hopefully transition more vehicles. If the milestone is not achieved within the first 3 years, we have a process by which we can revise the program, so we can seek to understand what's not working in the program for applicants. We could reallocate funding to different categories. So for example, if the cargo handling equipment is oversubscribed, we could allocate truck money to cargo handling equipment or vice versa. We could reallocate funding to ideas that haven't been determined yet within this MOU. And lastly, we could seek other types of projects off tidelands to support emission reduction opportunities. Next slide. All right, MOU Schedule 3 involves commercial harbor craft and ocean-going vessels. The goal is to promote initiatives to lower emissions from these vessel categories. In this schedule, the port and APCD will aim to increase participation in the port's voluntary vessel speed reduction program through a recognition and awards program, and will conduct outreach and provide education to the commercial harbor craft community about regulations and incentives for cleaner engines and advanced technology in that space. The port will commit to publicize the VSR program and track participation, and we'll also maintain our Green Marine program involvement. This is a voluntary program that ports and shipping agents across the globe are involved in that enhance environmental quality of our operations. APCD will potentially create newer modified incentive opportunities, particularly for the harbor craft community as needed. Next slide. All right, Schedule 4 involves supporting public participation in our projects for both the port as well as the Air Pollution Control District. We've had an opportunity to pioneer this concept with the Zuckermex project that we brought to this group back in March, and then tonight APCD brought forward the Austal project. In this schedule, the port will aim to increase public engagement in our projects prior to going to our board for preliminary project review. So this would be for projects that are maritime industrial projects on port land within the Portside community. We will go to the community to seek feedback about those projects before it goes to our board. At our board meeting during preliminary project review, we would summarize the outreach efforts that we undertook and let the board know about those efforts, as well as any feedback that we heard. Once the project, and if it goes through to its environmental review process, the port will conduct outreach during that period and provide early notification about the final environmental documents and when the next board hearing may be. APCD has a similar process, although it's a little bit different than the port. Of course, they will engage with the public early when they're the lead agency of a project in the Portside community. From my understanding, that's a very rare instance, although we saw it tonight, where APCD would be the lead CEQA agency. They'll conduct outreach during the environmental review process and provide notification of the final environmental analysis. Next slide. Okay, Schedule 5 involves infrastructure. As you all know, infrastructure is the bedrock for making this transition to zero emission equipment. The port will continue to conduct infrastructure planning for zero emission operations at our port. We'll comply with CARB regulations by providing shore power access to visiting ships that are regulated, and even seek opportunities for non-regulated ships. And then we will, of course, seek electrification and infrastructure funding from sources outside of APCD, whether that's at the state, whether it's private, or whether it's at the federal level. And APCD is committing to also seeking those electrification and infrastructure funding opportunities with us. Next slide. Okay, last schedule, MOU Schedule 6, involves off-tidelands projects within the Portside community. The goal of this schedule is to identify potential projects that may receive funding through the Port District's Maritime Industrial Impact Fund program, what we call the MIF. As many of you are aware, our MIF program, 4% of our maritime industrial revenue goes into a special pot of funding at the port that can be used off of the port land, so not within our jurisdiction, but off of our jurisdiction in the Portside community to support projects in the community. What the port will do is we're committing to conduct outreach about the MIF program. If there are identification of eligible projects pursuant to our board policy, the port will review those and then potentially make recommendations to our board to fund those projects. APCD will work with the Port District as well as the community, the Portside community, in looking at those projects and may serve as an eligible applicant for that funding. The way that the Maritime Industrial Impact Fund program works right now, the only eligible entities to receive funding would be another government agency or a school district. So if APCD and the community were to identify a project that, let's say, supports CERP implementation, then APCD could theoretically be a applicant to the port for that funding. So APCD would submit a proposal requesting funding if one is identified. And of course, we just need to make sure that any projects that are proposed to the port comply with our board policy 773. And with that, I think I'm handing it back over to Nick.
All right, thanks, Phil. So understandably, that's a lot of information that we went through at a very high level. And again, we would encourage everyone to read through the actual language that's included in the MOU. There's a link that's included on the agenda today for that. But that said, we wanted to leave you with some key takeaways from this proposed MOU. And then next slide will be just following up on some next steps. So the MOU, we believe, will be a critical initial step to reducing emissions at the port. And if successful, it can be accomplished quickly to support MCAS and CERP goals. We believe it will achieve much needed reductions in NOx and diesel particulate matter, which disproportionately affect the Portside community. Using CARB methodologies, the MOU has the potential to reduce over 200 tons of combined NOx and DPM over a 10-year period, a large portion of which will come from ocean-going vessels. APCD envisions being able to speak more accurately to more accurate emission reduction calculations as part of annual MOU updates. Reductions in diesel particulate matter would result in localized health benefits for Portside, while reductions in NOx would also result in less ozone formation and health benefits for the region overall. Based on estimates from EPA's COBRA screening tool, staff believes the corresponding emission reductions would equate to over 7,000 fewer incidents of negative health consequences over a 10-year period, such as fewer asthma attacks and lost or restricted work days due to air pollution. Tenants and service providers will be critical to realizing the success of the proposed MOU, and thus this document ensures them prioritized access to funding programs for ZEV equipment. The proposed MOU would also enshrine elements that support public participation, promote transparency, and share project information about major future projects in the Portside community. Accountability and community involvement would also be a high priority throughout the MOU term. No agreement is perfect, but both agencies believe the proposed MOU will benefit both tenants and the Portside community. Next slide, please. As far as next steps, APCD and port staff are here today and will be at other forums to present the proposed MOU to stakeholders. APCD then plans to present the proposed MOU to our governing board on June 12th, and the port plans to present it to their Board of Port Commissioners on July 15th. Should both boards approve the proposed MOU, implementation of the MOU would begin immediately. That is all we have today, but we are are all available to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Philip. Yeah, we'll take some moment here just to get any questions, any comments from folks, any clarifications that both Nick and Philip can provide. We'll look to raise hands and also the chat. And we'll give folks a moment as well. I know there's a lot of information. I think we're like consuming it, so give folks a moment as well. But if not, as folks are waiting, Nick, I guess one question for me, just kind of looking at the slide now, like, can you define or I guess list some of the stakeholders that you're likely going to be presenting to ahead of both board meetings?
I think tonight's meeting is definitely an important one for us. We wanted to definitely hear from the community and how their reaction to the proposed MOU. I do think, and I think some of which we have already done. I know Port staff has also been in touch with working waterfront representation and getting in touch with some of the tenants. Phil may be able to speak more to that. But those were definitely two critical ones that we needed to speak with. Leading up to the board meeting. Phil, did you have any thoughts on the working waterfront part?
No, I think you've covered it. These are important stakeholders in this effort, is the Portside community here, as well as the San Diego Working Waterfront and our tenants.
And I guess just to follow up on that, were there any recurring like comments or questions from folks that would be helpful for this group to just like know about? Just kind of like what other folks are thinking as you've been given this presentation?
So far, we haven't, on my end, we haven't heard any significant comments. People are digesting the language, as I'm sure everybody in the audience is doing tonight. A lot of the concepts that we've gone over tonight were presented, back to this group in the fall of 2024. So they shouldn't be necessarily new. They're just organized a little differently, and we've been able to put the the touches on the actual language. So we understand that it takes some time to move through that type of stuff.
And I would just add to that, I mean, going back a little further, we had a number of discussions back in August to a number of groups, including our board, the Ports board. One of the key themes I think we heard at that point was to remain flexible with the funding, so that if there was a need that, like Phil mentioned in his part of the presentation, where maybe there's an oversubscription of funds for cargo handling equipment, being able to nimbly adjust to that and potentially extract more emission reduction benefits by being able to move some of that funding around from category to category. That is something we have put into this MOU and have the ability to do. That was something. Sorry, go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, does that then also need to go back to the board, the respective boards, to get approval with that switch or like flexibility, or is that something that's written already and discretion's at staff level too?
The way we've structured it in this MOU is that we would not require further board approval. Certainly, if there was something very major that was substantially changing, we might consider that. But for modifications to the MOU, that has been put in as something we can handle staff to staff.
Thank you, Nick. And I'm going to look at the chat and see if folks have any questions, comments, and then if folks do want to raise their hand as well. We do want to take that moment, and I think, yes, there's a lot of information. We know that there are a lot of things to consider. Nick.
Yeah, kind of going down, building off of some of your questions, Christian, I understand that there's like some intentional flexibility in being able to move some of these funds around if we aren't able to find enough projects to meet the earmarked amount of funds. But is there any, I guess, requirements to show the type of outreach that is being done? So I guess my concern is, there's an allotment of $4 million for heavy duty truck project funding, right? And so if for whatever reason the port can't meet that obligation, then in effect we're basically earmarking 7 million funds towards cargo handling equipment without needing any kind of proof of saying, hey, they did their best effort to try to find trucks to transition. And so, yeah, is there any requirements on the MOU for the port to show the type of outreach that they're giving?
Well, I can take a stab at that, and colleagues from APCD can weigh in on the process that we've developed. So, I mean, first and foremost, the first step, if we were not to meet the, within the first 3 years, if we didn't encumber that $4 million, we would seek to understand what's not working in this program, what outreach is being conducted, why isn't it successful? Are there certain parameters in the funding opportunity that just can't be met by folks? Maybe there's market conditions that, aren't working, and we could try to revise it. So at that point, we would definitely be speaking at least between agencies about what's working in this and what's not. So we'd be going over kind of the methods for how we're doing outreach to truck drivers, how we're working with the trucking community at large to, inform them about this funding opportunity. So I think within that process, Nick, there is that discussion that would occur on what type of, things occurred to get the message out.
I would also add to that, as built into the structure of this MOU, there's a number of checkpoints, there's a number of meetings, there's a number of pieces of information that will be coming to the Portside Steering Committee, being reported to APCD, and vice versa, as part of this MOU. There's going to be a lot of information sharing back and forth, and between quarterly to semi-annual meetings to talk about progress that this MOU is making. I think we'll be able to share the progress. Certainly if there's problems that are being encountered, like Phil said, if there's market conditions that are preventing people from applying, or maybe there's an overflow of applications in one category and we need to shift another, I think there will be opportunities to have that dialogue with the steering committee, as well as just to have that information available, as part of these annual updates that we're planning to do. Where that's going to be part of the steering committee. There's also, I think, some requirements to present to, I think, our board at least, on progress on how the MOU is making. So there will be opportunities to have that information be known whenever that decision gets made.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I just want to jump on that too, that I'm sorry if I don't mean to confuse anybody that we're waiting 3 years and to let people know how things are progressing. There is an annual reporting requirement in this, so we'd be returning to at least this group and others to let them know about progress being made. So at those times we can share information about what's been achieved, and then certainly the community can ask questions to dig a little deeper.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Nick. I'm gonna check our participant list, see if anyone else has a comment or feedback. And if not in the chat, not seeing any raised hands. But with that, I think if no one wants to jump in, we do also just want to acknowledge again that there's a lot of information. I think we do have both Philip and Nick's contact information, I believe, should be in the chat. So if there is any questions, clarifications, do reach out. I think we want to make sure that the information is both digestible and as much as possible. I think allowing that opportunity for folks to follow up with any questions or comments that folks might have. So yeah, I see Jazz has added Nick's email, and then I believe we'll add Philip's email as well. So with that, I think we wrap up this presentation. So I'm going to pause on, actually going to stay on this screen. Philip, while we have you on screen, I believe one of the things that we were going to ask you to do is to provide an update on the SUCARMEX project as well. So while we have you on screen, I'm going to go back. I'm going to stop sharing, and then if you want to jump in, provide that update.
Sure. Yeah. And I apologize. I was running a little bit late to the meeting tonight. And then when I was in a position to log in, the link wasn't working for me. And so I apologize. I had to re-register and go through the whole thing again, but finally made it. Yeah, so as you all remember, we did present to the Portside Steering Committee way back in March on the Zuckermix project. You got to learn about the sugar storage project that Zuckermix is proposing at our 10th Avenue Marine Terminal. We did that meeting before that item went to our preliminary project review board meeting, which occurred earlier this month in May. So Zuckermex and the port staff got to present that project to our board for the first time. They summarized the public engagement that they conducted before that meeting and any feedback that was received. And just a quick summary, the board was very grateful for all of that outreach that occurred. I think they really liked the fact that port staff and Zuckermex went out to the community to let them know about this project early on. And the board directed port staff to continue to the environmental review phase of the project. So again, that doesn't mean there's a lease with Zuckermex yet. That doesn't mean there's a project approval. It just goes to the environmental review period of that project. And I'm not exactly sure what the next step will be and how long that may take. A determination will need to be made on the level of environmental review, but I'll keep the Portside community I'll provide any knowledge that I have at the appropriate time to this group.
Thank you, Philip. Yeah, I think any advance notice when it comes to like any public comment or opportunity for feedback and in advance, I think would be helpful just to make sure that we can loop it in. And then even if we can preview it leading into that, I think it's always helpful just to give folks some lead time for review and just, any questions that they might have ahead of that. But thank you, Philip. Appreciate you presenting both last presentation and also that update on Zuckermex. So with that, I'm actually going to go back to Lauren. So Lauren, hopefully we got your audio working.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, yay. Okay.
Okay, and Lauren,
Take two. Okay.
I'm back on the presentation. I do have this for you. So
Thank you.
Like, so where do you?
Alrighty. Thanks everyone for your patience. Okay. Did the old log out, log back in on Zoom and it worked. So this is just a quick share out about the Office of Environmental Justice and where we've been in the community of Portside. So we recently did an outreach at the Barrio Logan College Institute Career Fair where we were able to speak with students ranging from third grade up through seniors and in high school, kind of about career pathways that they might experience if they were to work at APCD, and they got to ask us all sorts of cool questions, and it was really great. We saw tons of students and their families, and that was wonderful. We were able to share out also about the Portside Community Steering Committee with staff at BLCI, as well as with parents and interested community members. And then we also conducted an environmental justice partnership workshop with partnership with Environmental Health Coalition. And there we shared out about the Portside Community Steering Committees. We had 6 applicants from people who participated to possibly join the committee. So we're following up with them. I know Kearns and West is following up with those applicants about getting them signed up. So all of this is just to kind of share out and share that if you know of events in the community that you think we should be at, that would be great to share out about the Community Steering Committee for Portside, or just in general about, air quality and health, things like that. Please let us know. You can reach out and just email me and then give me the information. I'll reach out to the organizers. So just to keep us in mind, we're always looking to try and help spread the word. So yeah, it's kind of just a reminder that we're there and that we're also trying to share out and about the Community Steering Committee and raise awareness there. So thanks. And if you have any questions, let me know. Feel free to hop on. If you have anything to add, Shalem, I don't know.
Not in terms of outreach specifically, but as it relates to CSC members, I just want to welcome officially Andrew Aguilar, who's also been part of the space as well, but is one of our newest official CSC members. So thank you, Andrew, for making that commitment. And I just want to see if I may have missed another potential new member today that I just want to do a shout out and acknowledge. All right. Yeah, well, thank you all. Yeah, and if, like Lauren said, if there's any events that you know that we should be at, just feel free to reach out.
And Lauren, I will plug in, I think, what Michelle shared earlier, and I believe that information is in the chat. I know that is coming out pretty quick, so I'm not sure if staff will be at that event.
Yeah, unfortunately, we'll talk internally tomorrow at our staff meeting. I know that I'm unavailable. I know Shalem is, so, but we'll see. That doesn't mean it's a no. We'll definitely see if we can be there. I may be going just with my family, so.
Awesome. All right, folks. So I'm gonna stop screen sharing just because I don't want to get folks dizzy. I'm gonna move us through the end, and we are looking at time, and I believe we're gonna be likely wrapping up early. And then as noted, I believe that presentation from Kevin, we did move it forward to next month. So we'll give that presentation at that point. So let's see. Caught up on presentation. So we did want to give an update or just a moment as well, just for any public comment, even if these are comments both general, but then also if it's particular to any of the presentations that we heard today, it's still very much open for you to provide that comment or feedback. I know that sometimes we're thinking through some of these things, a lot of information, and then we get a little bit of a light bulb moment, and that feedback comes in. But yeah, folks, if anyone wants to jump in, take that moment now. I'm not seeing anyone, so we'll keep moving. So before we close, we do want to provide some next steps and reminders. First, just a reminder to register for our upcoming meeting on the 24th. The other thing that we do want to kind of plug is that you should be receiving a weekly digest. This is going to have community updates and reminders. If there's anything you would want us to share with a broader group of an event, something that's happening, do let us know and we can plug that in as well. And send that out as part of the listserv that folks are receiving. Hopefully, this is minimizing the amount of emails that you're receiving from our team, and hopefully in a little bit more of a digestible format as well. And Jazz, I believe we just added our registration link. So, Shalon, before we close, I want to see if you have any other announcements or remarks.
I don't, but just want to wish everyone a happy summer, as for many of our kiddos getting out of school very soon. And so I know it'll be quite a busy summer for many of us, community events and all the like. So looking forward to seeing you out there. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there on Saturday, but if you're in town, please go to the event that Michelle was sharing about. But looking forward to seeing you at some community event this summer. Take care, everyone.
So if there's nothing further, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting? And then if I can get a second as well.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Keith first. And then who was the second? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Phil.
Phil. Thank you, Phil. So all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. With that, we'll wrap up today's meeting. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight, and hopefully everyone can grab a nice dinner tonight. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you. Good night now.